Hello everyone. Today is 14th of July. Now it's 12:30, middle of the day by Moscow time. I'm Levan Gudadze and this is my first update today, in which I will share all the main news that are making headlines in Russian media outlets and Russian language pages on different internet platforms. There are quite a few very significant developments and news that I'd like to share with you for this moment, but before I start, let me take a couple of minutes and make a little announcement. As I promised to all of you quite some time ago, while we are in North Ossetia, Alania, I will try to make extra content for not just for Patreon but also for main channels on YouTube and Rumble. And entire this week I was engaged in preparations of one of the trips that I was planning, and yesterday also, that's why I was unable to make update yesterday, and now I can say that everything is in place. And tomorrow and day after, this Saturday and Sunday, we will be in the mountains of North Ossetia, and because of it I would not be able to make updates, but I will compensate for that with the video footage that I will make there and I will upload that video on Monday as a second update. First one will be news and political commentary, and then I will during the day upload this video footage from mountains, and I will try to highlight beauty of nature that North Ossetia Alania can offer to everybody. So hopefully you will find that video interesting. And before we will go back to Moscow region, I hope I will manage to make at least 2 or 3 more additional extra content for main channels, for YouTube and Rumble. So that's been said, let's talk about, and by the way, because of it, I repeat myself once again, if I may, that because we will be in mountains where there is no internet, I would not be able to make update tomorrow and on Sunday, but from Monday I will continue my work as I usually do on daily basis, and Saturdays I will just have day off, 1 day off a week on Saturdays. That's been said, let's talk about news now, and I will start with a quick summary of the situation on the front lines. So it's operational pause all along from Kherson region to Kupiansk and Kharkiv. But when it comes to sectors itself, in Kherson region, it's artillery duels between the sides mainly, even though some Ukrainian small units are holding to some positions on the left bank of the Dnieper River. At least for now, operational control over the bank of the river on the left side of Kherson region is in Russian hands. Sides are conducting artillery duels and recon operations. When it comes to Zaporozhye sector of the front line and Sovdanetsk sector of the front line, there is much more activity, of course, in comparison to Kherson region. And what is interesting, that yesterday video was circulating on internet from Pityakhatki-Zhiribyanki area. A video was made by Ukrainian soldiers, and in that video we see first time so-called voluntary units of Ukrainian armed forces on the front line, and those forces have a specific name in Russia. We are called them TikTok forces because they have good fantasy to make some TikTok videos, but they are not really capable forces when it comes to real fight. And many military experts did notice that fact itself, that Zelensky's regime is forcing these TikTok forces on the front line, thus highlights difficulties that Ukrainian forces are experiencing when it comes to manpower. So that's interesting development. And also, of course, hot point is Rabotina. This morning we did have some reports that Ukrainian forces yet again try to improve their positions in direction of Rabotina, but all the attacks were repelled according to Russian side. And by the way, probably you already are informed that During previous 24 to 48 hours, Russian side didn't conduct offensive operation in direction of Gulyai-Pole, local scale offensive, but it became as a surprise for everybody because Russian forces were quite passive in this sector of the front for many months, really, and everyone was surprised that Russians were attacking in direction of Gulyai-Pole. When it comes to Vremevsky Ledge, Ukrainian forces are constantly, yet again, trying wave after wave to achieve any more or less significant success, but they are unable to do so. Russian artillery is basically decimating all the attempts of Ukrainian forces to achieve anything. And the overall situation is as I said, it's operational pause, and to be honest, lately, I do have some doubts that Zelensky's regime even will be able to conduct second wave of offensive, counteroffensive in direction of this land bridge between Crimea and Russia. And I have quite good reasoning to doubt this because just a few days ago, as I reported, the defense minister of Russian Federation did make a statement according to which since 4th of June, when this Ukrainian counteroffensive began, armed forces of Ukraine lost more than 26,000 soldiers killed and wounded. And 26,000 soldiers, that's about 7-8 brigades, by the way. That's 7-8 brigades. And Zelensky's regime at maximum had in its reserve, operational reserve or strategic reserve, about 15 to 18 brigades. So third or even maybe half of strategic reserves of Zelensky regime is destroyed already during this extremely unsuccessful first stage of counteroffensive. And if Washington and London will not demand from Zelensky to continue with the counteroffensive, then probably we would not see second wave of counteroffensive. When it comes to Donetsk sector of the front, it's usually two cities that are hot points. It's Marinka and Avdiivka, but recently, in recent days, Krasnogorovka also become a hot point, and Russian forces were trying to improve their positions and establish fire control over the roads that have been used by Ukrainian forces to reinforce and resupply garnison in Marinka that goes through Krasnogorovka. So that settlement is in, let's say, is becoming hot point now. And when it comes to Avdiivka, as you know, Russian forces did establish fire control over all the roads that are connecting Avdiivka with the rest of the territory that is under control of Zelensky's regime. And if that's the case, then Avdiivka is in operational encirclement. Avdiivka is in operational encirclement. When it comes to, but yet again, nothing is happening in a scale that will influence overall situation on this sector of the front. It's still operational pause in my reading of big picture, despite all these local scale skirmishes. When it comes to Bakhmut direction, as you know, Ukrainian forces were very active during the previous months also. They were trying to conduct some encircle basically Bakhmut. They were very active in the northern flank of Bakhmut and southern flank of Bakhmut, but Ukrainian forces first run out of steam and lose initiative on the northern flank of Bakhmut. And nowadays, previous 2, 3, 4 days, it's becoming clear that Ukrainian forces running out of steam on the southern flank of the Bakhmut or Artyomovsk also. And now initiative gradually is changing hand from Ukrainian to Russian side. So all the attempts of Ukrainian forces to establish control over the Kurdyumovka or Klishevka and surrounding areas failed. And as I said, initiative is gradually moving towards Russian hands. When it comes to northern sector of the front, Seversk, Liman and Kupiansk, initiative was in Russian hands from a long time now. Initiative is in Russian hand, and in previous days we did had reports that Russian side did manage to establish control over the few settlements on the northern part of Yampol and Tarskoe, one of them, this settlement. Here, of course, this pro-Ukrainian map would not acknowledge any Russian success for quite a while. And by the way, as I said many times before, I only use this map because of colors. Here, it's easier to highlight geography of battlefield. That's the only reason I use this map, because it's extremely unreliable. So I would not recommend this map for anything else other than to learn geography of a battlefield. And today, by the way, this morning, we did have information, and I did share on my Telegram this information that according to multiple sources, Russian side did manage to liberate settlement of Novoselovskaya in Lugansk People's Republic, which is southeastern part of Kupiansk. And this is it, by the way. This settlement is in Russian control, under Russian control. Now, according to Russian sources, of course, during the day we will probably have some more information, and I will share that on my Telegram. But initiative definitely in central and the northern part of front initiative is in Russian hands, and lately it's Russian side that are conducting local scale offensive operations in multiple directions. But yet again, when it comes to overall assessment of situation on the front line, my reading is that it's operational pause, because even in these local scale offensives, successful offensives that Russian armed forces are conducting in the northern sectors of the front, these operations aren't gonna influence significantly overall situation on these sectors. But of course, if step by step, if this successful offensives will continue, eventually Russian forces will gain enough positional advantage that they will be able to conduct large-scale offensive operations, and I believe we will see large-scale Russian offensive in central and the northern parts of frontline before end of this summer. Maybe we will see large-scale Russian offensive even in southern sectors of the front, in Zaporozhye and South Donetsk sectors of the front, but well, that's only possibility, because yet again we have to wait how this so-called Ukrainian counteroffensive will resolve. And this is it for quick summary on situation on the front line. I will, if you want to learn in more details about battles that are taking place, these local battles, I will recommend, of course, military summary channel, DPA War. Web Union also does daily summaries of situation on the front line, and of course I will recommend Alexander Mercury's channel, host of Deduran. And all these channels, by the way, devote much more time in detailed analytics of situation on the front line than I do, because my program is about news and in general, not just about military conflicts. So let me continue now. So format, I just have different format, and that's it really. And let me continue now. And by the way, as I said, there is very significant developments, and I was waiting for some clarifications on this news here and some statements from Russian officials, and that's why this update is going to be a little bit late today. So RIA Novosti is reporting that the Ukrainian forces did try to strike in direction of Kursk region, in direction of Kursk nuclear power plant, and well, according to this information, Ukrainian drone fell only a few kilometers away from Kursk nuclear power plant in city of Kurchatov. And by the way, if I'm not mistaken, Kurchatov, this city is a scientific city. There are many scientific institutions located in that city, and some of them are oriented to on physics, and if I'm not mistaken, once again, they do have a nuclear reactor also. I don't know state of that reactor, maybe it's in cold state or maybe it's active, but if I'm not mistaken, there was a nuclear reactor in Kurchatov which was used for some scientific experiments previously, and but anyway, no matter which was target for Zelensky's regime, Kursk nuclear power station or nuclear reactor in scientific institution, if it's still there, of course, this is a pure nuclear terrorism, by the way. This is a pure nuclear terrorism that was conducted by Zelensky's regime, and I was waiting for statements from Russian officials, and official representative of Russian Foreign Ministry, Maria Zakharova, did make statement, did comment on this information, and she said that governments of NATO states are sponsoring nuclear terrorism of Kiev regime. So quite a strong statement. And she did mention that in city of Kurchatov, where Kursk nuclear power plant is based, in vicinity, not far away, drone fell down, and countries that are supplying these drones to Kiev regime should feel responsible, because they're not gonna fly on the Mars. That's what she says. So they're gonna fly to Mars if nuclear disaster will occur. Of course they don't, even if they wish so. But yet again, by the way, I will remind you statements that was made by Dmitry Medvedev, former Russian president and current deputy chairman of Security Council. He said a few days ago that commenting on information that Zelensky's regime was planning to strike one of the Russian nuclear power stations, Smolensk, if I'm not mistaken, Smolensk nuclear power station. Medvedev did said that if Zelensky's regime will strike Russian nuclear power plant, Russia will respond harshly, and strikes may occur on nuclear facilities, not just in entire Eastern Europe. That's what he said. That's my reading of at least of words of Medvedev, and well, quite scary development, really. Quite a scary development, because I don't think anybody has any doubts how dangerous nuclear disaster can be, and well. How you gonna comment this, man? Unfortunately, risk is remaining that one of the attacks of Zelensky's regime will achieve its target and cause nuclear devastation, and if that's the case, then well, who knows how Moscow will react, and situation may escalate very quickly, and may become dramatic for entire world. So I don't know, maybe Western societies should think once again what kind of regime they are supporting, and maybe they will start asking questions and demanding answers for their elites, why they are supporting regimes that are conducting strikes on nuclear power stations. I mean, if this is not pure madness, then what this is? So let's continue, and of course during the day there will be some other reactions also, I believe, and I will share additional news on my Telegram page. You will see link under this video in the description box or in the pinned comment. And let's continue. RIA Novosti also reporting about work of Russian air defense systems in Voronezh region, and according to this news, in vicinity of Voronezh, 3 Ukrainian drones were shot down. And thankfully no reports about casualties on the ground. But yet again, Zelensky's regime time after time demonstrates that they will use any means they got to strike deep inside Russian territory. They just don't care if they will cause casualties among civilians or not. They just don't care. They are striking nuclear they are trying to strike nuclear power stations. Of course, they don't care, man. Let me continue. TASS news agency is reporting that Prime Minister of Ukraine, Denis Shmyhal, did made statement that European Investment Bank and the EU member states did make decision to send to Zelensky's regime additional 400 million euros, this time for reconstruction, presumably. And by the way, when I was reading this news, I was thinking to myself, this 400 million gonna be probably easiest millions that Zelensky's regime will, Zelensky and his associates will steal probably, because they don't even have to explain what they did with money to nobody. I mean, they will say that you know, we did build bridge there, rebuild house there, factory there, and then strikes came, missile strikes came, and well, please give us some more millions and billions. Well, yet again, if Western society, Western taxpayers are happy to enrich Zelensky and his associates, or the Western masters, and of course some parts of this money will eventually end up in accounts of offshore accounts of these corrupt European officials. Well, if European taxpayers are happy to pay for all this madness, then that's their decision. What can I do, really? It's just sad, really. I mean, it's sad and very unfortunate. Let me continue, and we have TASS news agency's report about statements that head of armed forces of France made, Sébastien Lecornu, and he said that France did receive some guarantees from Zelensky's regime that Scalp long-range cruise missiles that French did deliver to Zelensky's regime won't be used on Russian soil. Well, I don't know who gonna fool this Sébastien Lecornu, who gonna believe in every word that he will say. But of course, we all know that Zelensky's regime will use any weapons that they get to hit deep inside Russian territory and cause as much damage and pain to Russian citizens as possible. And well, it's very unfortunate that Western elites are continuing to participate in killing of Russian citizens with impunity. It's just very unfortunate. As long as they feel impune, as long as they feel that they will pay for nothing, then they can continue to participate in killing of Russian citizens. They will do so. These so-called Western elites that I want to believe that not really represent Western societies. I want to believe that real elites would be much better human beings than current so-called elites of the West are. Let me continue, and this is RIA Novosti's news, according to which Gutierrez, head of UN, Antonio Gutierrez, yes. So head of UN Antonio Gutierrez did send a letter to President of Russian Federation, Vladimir Putin, and he was in this letter, he was talking about grain deal. UN, I believe UN under pressure from the Western elites, so-called Western elites, and well, as I said many times before, UN is no longer international institution. It's a pocket institution of the Western so-called elites, really, and UN does whatever Western elites want, and that's why Gutierrez is acting now on behalf of Zelensky's regime and Western elites, and trying to pressure Russian president to prolong this grain deal. Well, just a few days ago, Erdogan also spoke about grain deal, that how important it is to be prolonged and so on, and he did mention that Ankara and Moscow are in negotiations about grain deal, in talks. Well, Putin also did spoke about a grain deal, and he did said that there is few days remaining before current deal will expire, and Moscow will make statement about it before 17th of July. So well, it's difficult to predict what decision Moscow will make. There were so many statements from high-ranking Russian officials, critical statements towards Green Deal, that it will be logical to think that Moscow would not prolong this deal. But yet again, very same people were making very same critical statements or similar critical statements before, but Green Deal was prolonged once, then twice, and well, I would not be surprised if Green Deal will be prolonged once again, even though Russian officials are saying that this deal is basically used against Russia. So, well, very confusing topic, very unpopular topic in Russia, in some parts of society at least. But yet again, Putin has, I don't know, 70-80% of approval rating. He can basically do anything, and even if he loses like 10% or 20% of support, well, he will still be most popular politician in Russia, and maybe he will prolong this deal anyway for some calculations that are not for us, but who knows what kind of plans Putin has. I mean, what kind of geopolitical game he's playing, and what role this Green Deal has in that game. I mean, we can only guess. Let me continue now, and this is TASS News Agency's report, according to which, well, Pentagon did stated that Zelensky's regime already received cluster munition. Of course, majority of us probably did think straight away that when this statement was made about deliveries of cluster munition to Ukraine, probably those ammunitions were already in Ukraine. And you know, there was a report that Tokmak was shelled by cluster munitions a few days ago. And yes, now Pentagon is acknowledging that yes, ammunition is already in hands of Zelensky's regime and forces that are still loyal to Zelensky. Well, from Russian side, the defense minister and deputy chairman of Security Council Shoigu and Medvedev did make statements, and they said that if Ukrainian side will start using this type of weapons, then Russian side will also start using this type of weapons. And well, very unfortunate, really, very unfortunate. But probably we will see yet another level of escalation in this conflict. And unfortunately, cluster munition is dangerous not just for military personnel, but also for civilians. And danger for civilians will remain on territories where cluster munitions were used for years and decades. But yet again, this is a level of escalation that yet again comes from Western elites, isn't it? Let me continue a few more topics, and it's gonna be it. Quite short video for today. So this is TASS News Agency's report. Quite interesting news, and this news based on reports of CNN, that Secret Service, U.S. Secret Service, did not manage to find out to whom that cocaine belonged that was found in White House. Well, I guess everybody knows who was using that cocaine, but and it's quite unfortunate that Secret Service has been involved in this political game. Politics is not a business of secret services and military stuff, but in this case, I mean, we have a example when secret services have been used in political games by current administration of White House, by Biden's administration, because come on now, I mean, how it's even possible that Secret Service didn't manage to find out who this cocaine belonged to? It's impossible. It's just literally impossible. But for God's sake, they are recording presidents in White House. They are recording everything, every step, in every room, just everywhere. Even presidents are recorded. and they did not see who and when used this cocaine. Come on, man. But yet again, this information highlights how devastating for US reputation, for US statehood, and I guess for US citizens current administration is and was. I mean, it's just unbelievable. Definitely worst administration, worst president that US ever had. 100% sure about it. It's I don't know, man. Let me continue now, and this is TASS News Agency's report, according to which, quite interesting news, by the way, according to which Russian foreign debt decreased since the beginning of the year by $33 billion, which is quite a number, isn't it? And the latest information is that currently Russian foreign debt is $380.5 billion, and since beginning of 2022, foreign debt decreased on 101 billion. So, and by the way, it may sound a huge number, and of course it is a huge number. 380 billion still remain foreign debt, but if you compare this with the GDP, Russian GDP, it's not that much really. And because of the Western sanctions, Russia, even if Russian government wants to borrow money, it's much difficult now to do so. But Russia still pays for previous credits, and that's why Russian foreign debt is decreasing in significant rate just since the beginning of just in 2022. As I said, Russian foreign debt decreased by 101 billion, and in this year this number may be much more. So somehow, despite this pressure from the West and all these thousands and thousands of sanctions, Russian economy not just managing to hold on, but Russian economy is managing to pay back its debt and allowing government to deal with the service foreign debt and the decrease amount of money that Russia owns to investors, basically. And as I said, man, in comparison to Russian GDP, 380 billion is just not that significant number, really. So this is it. This is it for now. I remind you that US, for example, has foreign debt. US owns 31 trillion, or maybe even more now, something like that, which is in comparison to US GDP is more than 100%. It's 150%, I guess, somewhere around that number. When Russian foreign debt in comparison to GDP is, I cannot remember exactly now Russian GDP for this moment, but I guess it's around 3 trillion to 3 trillion, and well, if that's the case, then 380 billion, it's only like, I don't know, 15%, 20% of GDP, which is really not that big of a deal. But main point is that Russia is able to pay all its payments on foreign debt and decrease number of amount of money that Russia owns to investors. This is it for now. This is it for now. I hope you will find this video interesting. By the way, I apologize for not making update yesterday, but as I said, I was involved in this planning and I was dealing with some technical issues to make sure that everything in the place to conduct this 2-day trip to mountains. It's quite serious stuff because it's mountains, man. Nature don't likes when you are entering its territory without proper preparation. And yeah, so sorry that I was not able to make update yesterday. I did try to be somewhat active in Telegram. Well, I hope you will find this update today interesting, and I will be in mountains next 2 days, and from Monday I will continue as usual on daily updates. So yes, this is it for now. Please hit that like button, leave some commentary about any topic you like. More likes and comments definitely make influence on YouTube algorithm. So more likes and comments do help. I was trying to remember word, but I could not. So more likes or comments do influence algorithm, and I will probably have opportunity to reach wider audience. Like if you will share links to my videos or my channel with your friends on Telegram, Twitter, or Facebook, I will be immensely grateful for this. And by the way, if you think this channel is interesting, has some potential, and deserves to exist in this field of news and political commentary, please consider to support with small donations through PayPal, Buy Me Coffee, or by subscribing to my Patreon page, on which I do regularly some extra content also. This is it for now. Have a great day, and I wish you a great and wonderful weekend. Take care and see you soon.